Are land acknowledgements performative, or do they actually advance truth and reconciliation? Does simply reciting the names of Indigenous nations in your area improve relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people, or is there real substance behind them? Over the past several years, land acknowledgements have become increasingly popular as a way to pay respect to the traditional lands that we live on. But do they amount to much more than performative acts? Are they actually contributing to true reconciliation between Indigenous people and settler society? Let's dive into this critical topic and uncover the truth. Before this episode starts, I have a small favor to ask from you. 89% of people who watch this channel don't subscribe. So if you've ever liked any of the videos we've posted, if you like this channel, can you please do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button? It helps the channel more than you know, and the bigger the channel gets, the better we can together make an impact towards Indigenous truth and reconciliation. Thank you and enjoy this episode. Now, first and foremost, what is a land acknowledgement? A land acknowledgement is a way to respectfully recognize Indigenous presence and land rights in everyday life and in current day. It's typically done at ceremony, lecture, or public event or meeting. It serves as a subtle reminder of the history of colonialism and the need for change in settler colonial societies. However, it's important to acknowledge that these gestures can sometimes be seen as tokenistic or make people feel good for doing nothing. All settlers, including recent arrivals, have a responsibility to deeply reflect on the meaning of acknowledging the history and legacy of colonialism. Refer to this video. When is a land acknowledgement performative, though? Land acknowledgements aren't correct or incorrect, or in this case, performative or not, but rather it's better to ask how performative versus meaningful are they? Now, here are 3 signs that your land acknowledgement could be performative. Now, first, if the acknowledgement is simply being said as a formality without any meaningful information about the local territories or people, and it's not coming from any place that is personally connected to the organization or the person giving the acknowledgement. So when they're being recited or scripted, it removes all genuinity and authenticity from the statement. The second sign that your land acknowledgement might be performative is if it's an act of tokenism, meaning that you have an Indigenous person reading it. That's a big red flag. Now, why are Indigenous people generally asked to read land acknowledgements? Usually an Indigenous person is asked because of the stereotypical expectation that any language pronunciation will be read better by an Indigenous person, making that Indigenous individual feel even worse if they don't know their Indigenous language. The unfortunate fact is many acts of tokenism aren't done intentionally because of that unconscious bias and systemic racism that exists today. Indigenous people that are deeply connected to their Indigenous heritage know that the land is Indigenous land. So asking them to stand up in front of a group of people or in a meeting or sit down or whatever the case may be and read out a land acknowledgement is inappropriate. The reason that many Indigenous people will not speak that out is because so many reasons. We could talk about oppression being normalized, racism and oppression being our norm. We could talk about discrimination and wanting to capitalize on opportunities to get into the room or have opportunities to meet people or have our voices heard, even if what we are using our voice for isn't something that we necessarily agree with. Sometimes we will just conform to doing these things because of generational trauma, because of oppression from colonization, and because we don't want to ruffle the feathers. Another thought is that people just don't know. But when you look at what is actually being said in a land acknowledgement, it doesn't make sense for an Indigenous person to read that. It should be a leader who is respected and where the entire audience is going to listen to what they're saying and it be a meaningful message that is personally connected to the person that is sharing it. Now, the third sign that a land acknowledgement is performative is if the speaker is not conscious of their tone when making this statement, or if they're not being mindful of cultural etiquette in regard to honoring the land and Indigenous people. Territorial land acknowledgements should include a connection to whoever is reading it, and that's why it's so important that if you are doing a land acknowledgement, that it is personalized as possible to the person who's doing it. Okay, so we talked about the reasons why a land acknowledgement could come across as performative and some of the signs for a land acknowledgement being performative, or at least coming across that way. Do any of these signs or reasons resonate with you? I'd love to know in the comments below. And I don't want to give off the impression that I'm completely against land acknowledgements. Land acknowledgements are not all bad. There are some great benefits to them being done, which I do want to highlight for all of you. Now, some of the benefits of land acknowledgements. There are 3 of them that I'm going to share in the video today. The first benefit of land acknowledgements are that they highlight awareness of Indigenous people and lands, where it otherwise maybe wouldn't even be thought of, or conversations from people who are extremely unaware of history of Indigenous people. Now, why is this beneficial? Because it opens up conversations in situations where otherwise wouldn't have been mentioned and reaches individuals who might be oblivious. And each one of these land acknowledgements are an opportunity to maybe inspire them to learn more. The second benefit of land acknowledgements is that a land acknowledgement itself is a conflicting subject. So the act of doing them creates insightful conversations. Now, why is this beneficial? Well, conflicting, controversial topics always lead to discussions and people sharing varying opinions, which creates many instances where people will seek out more information, research, and learn more about truth and reconciliation. The hard truth is that history can't be undone, and there's a lot of frustration Indigenous leaders feel about land acknowledgements due to the fact that land acknowledgements repeatedly highlight pain and injustice from the past without actually providing a solution to the injustice, which sometimes leaves you with that icky feeling. It's like taking a bandage off an unhealed wound, waving it around for people to see, and then not doing anything else, just carrying on. Now, the third benefit of a land acknowledgement is when people are doing it, actually take it upon themselves to go above and beyond. And there are actions taken by the people involved right then and there in the moment, or throughout the work that they're doing to involve an elder or someone who can give a welcome ceremony or prayer or engage with them to do respectful protocols. If you feel that land acknowledgements have more benefits than cons, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on these different signs that a land acknowledgement might be performative, or what some other benefits that I might have missed in this video. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and we'll see you next time.